Hi everyone, we should be live now. Let me check everything. Okay, looks like we are live now, so let's settle down, wait everyone to join us. So my name is Yuri Kuzemka, and I'm doing these regular live coding sessions with different kind of problems. You can check out them on my YouTube channel, but today we're gonna be solving pretty interesting problem we have right now with our Kubernetes cluster. Is actually how to make a persistent volume that will support ReadWriteMany mode. Right, so as you see probably this Medium blog post I found in the internet, it explains how to do it. And the issue is that by default, most of cloud providers like GKE or any kind like that are not supporting the read-write mode for your persistent volume. So you can have the ReadWriteMany, I mean, you can have the read-only many, right, where a lot of pods can read the same persistent volume. You can have the read-write one, so when the only one pod can read and write this volume, but you can't have ReadWriteMany to persistent volume. And of course, I mean, this is not very good practice to have the common file system among multiple containers or pods, but actually there are some cases where we should have these. And today I faced this case right now, so it wasn't something I've decided to do, but rather than I'm just spinning up the OpenReply platform for the session recordings of the website visitors. And the way they are processing session recordings is that one of the services, if you take a look on these code here, so one of the services, which is HTTP, I guess, handles some HTTP request that contains some data about the session recording, some event data, and then it stores this data somewhere in the file storage and sends the event through the event path. In this case, is Redis service to the storage service that takes this data from local storage and uploads it to the cloud storage bucket like S3. And this is the way it's implemented. It does make sense to me because that way we just offloading the storage service. So whenever we have big load on HTTP service, all it does is simply puts all the bytes it receives, right, from the HTTP request into file storage and returns success to the clients, and then it just puts the message into the queue. And if there is a traffic spike, the storage service won't get out. It will be just more queue messages there, and storage will process them in some sequential order. So it will prevent us from losing the data, right? And if we're talking about not just some small chunks of data, but really some big file kind of like data, right, where we processing maybe a few hundred of kilobytes or maybe a few megabytes of data, it's too big data to put it into the Redis queue because it might just went out of memory very quickly. So we're storing in the local storage for temporarily. And it does make sense for me. Maybe there is some other way to implement it in a better case, but I don't know. I just appreciate the OpenReply team that they made that product well in open source in the way that can help us do those things. But as we're trying to deploy it to the GKE and we're using multi-node solutions, so we can have multiple nodes of the data, we can't just mount the nodes file system inside of the pod because we might have multiple nodes, and it means each node has a fresh file system. So thus we need to use the persistent volume. And as GKE doesn't allow us to have the ReadWriteMany persistent volume, we're gonna achieve it today with the following way, as this article suggests us. And so right now, basically, what happening here is how we're achieving it. What are we actually doing? And to do this, we need to create a network file system. And this article explains pretty well, thanks for the author of this article, So he shared with us this great idea how we can do it. So we basically deploying our deployment of network file system server, which gotten from the Google image, and then after this deployment is ready, we're creating a service, of course, so it will have some network and be available inside the cluster. And then we create the persistent volume and persistent volume climb. In persistent volume, we're specifying type as NFS and specifying the address to our just deployed service. So thus, we have our NFS, our kind of like storage service, as the Kubernetes deployment. The interesting thing is that we actually using the GKE file, the GKE persistent volume to create the persistent volume for this NFS service, right? So this NFS service will use this volume, but as far as this service is only one, so it's enough for us to use read-write-one mode, because you won't have any kind of multiple replicas or anything like that, and thus we just solving the issue. So we just attaching these persistent volume only to this one NFS server, and then we're creating another persistent volume from this NFS server, like here, and then we're creating persistent volume claim, and then we can reuse this persistent volume claim in our services pods in multiple, right? And it means that multiple services can access the same persistent volume that in the end of the story is actually the Google Cloud persistent storage, right? So this is really interesting idea, and I just want to try on practice right now with you today. So let's go ahead and get started. And yeah, the first thing we need to do is to basically create the deployment of our NFS service. So I'll go ahead and do it right now. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me them in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer you them. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create here templates. Let's create the template called, let's call it NFS deployment. YAML, right? So we have this service, and we can basically add some configurational data to our values file and reuse it. So, but I'll go ahead and just copy this deployment from here, and do it like this. So we have this deployment, and I'm not a very big fan of having everything configurable in the values file. I rather like the things that shouldn't be changed dynamically, they should be configured static. So for instance, my opinion that the only data we need to have in the values file is that we want to be different among different environments. All the other data could exist in the exact templates file, and this might be contradictory towards the Helm offer us, because Helm wants us every single line to be configurable through the values file. But why I don't like it, because in the end of the day you're getting some deployment files like these that are full of those template annotations, and it just make this file to read a bit harder, and it's a bit more confused in my opinion to do things like that. So yeah, if you can avoid things like these, I prefer to having the Kubernetes deployment files to more look like this. Okay, yeah, so this is just my opinion. But yeah, still we will be able to adjust it to provide all the necessary configuration that we need. All right, so let's then we've just added the deployment file. So I guess what we indeed can configure is the like image. Okay, but I won't be doing it right now. So yeah, let's take a look. So we using persistent volume here. Let's take a look how they are creating this. So they are creating it right now. I guess we should create it manually. We need to create a persistent volume for this particular storage, right? So you get persistent disk. Or basically I guess we don't need to do it right now. So let's name it OpenReply NFS. Yeah, they just, because they have this configuration inline, we don't need to create the persistent volume. For instance, let me show you somewhere. It's like this. We have persistent volume claim here, right? And where we're specifying the access mode, whatever, storage. So instead, we just specify it directly here. Okay, so let's follow the same way we have here. Let's leave it as it is, and let's go ahead and then create the service according to the template they've sharing. So yeah, I'll do the same way, just new file, NFS service YAML, and paste it here. I'm just changing the name to the okay, let's actually make this name video configurable release namespace now. I just want to, okay, now let's do it just inline. So OpenReply NFS server selector role. So we have, okay, we have some kind of the only thing we need to configure dynamically is actually our labels, because Helm will require us to have the proper label set up. But as far as we have the selector right now, we can reuse it. So I'll go ahead and copy the labels configuration from over here. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so they don't have any kind of labels like this. So go ahead and take a look on some deployment, whatever they have. I'll do it like this. So let me see. For the deployment, we have labels. Under the metadata, okay. But here we just need to use app, right? Let me just check it. Oh, okay, so we need to use OpenReply, not the app. OpenReply labels, all right. And then for the service, I'll do the same as we're doing here. So I guess, yeah, they just include the same labels for the service. So copy the same here over the service. We're using these labels to, this is kind of like for the Helm chart. So the Helm chart can identify the last deployment, the last service deployment, or the last deployment, right? To which release it belongs, and all the meta information for the Helm version tracking like this. Alright, so yeah, we've added it. Let's move forward and see what they have here. So, okay, they want to create the NFS backend persistent volume and persistent volume climb. So yeah, let's just copy these and add a new file, and I call it NFS pv YAML, which is NFS persistent volume. I'll paste it there, and also I'll add the labels as we do everywhere. I'll add the labels everywhere. So the storage, I'll put 10 gig, the 10 gig here, ReadWriteMany. So the service, and here the server name should be in the DNS resolving format. So where this is the name of the service, this is the name of the namespace, then the service cluster local, and we just need to copy our service name like this. I think those things that we are using in multiple YAML files, we need to move globally to the values and then reuse them, but we will do it later on after we'll test that everything works well. In the meanwhile, we'll just add it like this. So we have the persistent volume like this, and let's call it open replay storage. Yeah, just like this. And the same way, let's name this thing. Okay, so we have it. All right. Okay, so they want to create another PVC and mount them to the port. Well, not the PVC in the port. So they want, yeah, they just want multiple PVCs to be mounted in the port. We don't need it. It's enough for us to have one PVC. Okay. So I'll go ahead and check all of our deployments that are using the PVC and force them to use our NFS system. So let's go ahead and do it right now. So as far as you know, let me see. So this one is not using, so it wasn't HTTP, actually it was sync, I guess, right? Okay, all right, so this one is using. So instead of using this PVC, what we want to do here in the PVC specification, we just need to rewrite this config, and let's basically rewrite it globally. So let's go to the level above. Then on this level we have the values, and let's define a few more configuration here. So this is how we now doing it with the Helm. So with the Helm, we will we can configure those properties. So the first thing I would like to configure is the selector role label. So I'll go ahead and set up this one. So we can then reuse it here like this. We have this role, and we will use the Helm syntax to get it, like values, NFS, and then this stuff. so we can reuse it for multiple places, because in the service we need to use it as well. So here we have the selector and we need to put it like this as well. All right, perfect. So then we need to get the operating plan. So let's then add the service name as well. Let it be the same. We're going to be reusing them, so that's why I want to put them globally. All right, perfect. And in the service name, we should use the thing that called ensures, the thing that called YAML ensures. So I just want to show you what I mean by that. So on the YAML ensures, what are they doing? They're helping us to create kind of like YAML variables that could be reused in the file. Again, this article is too complex to show you the basic example. Okay, we can do it like this. So basically, yeah, we're just specifying this ampersand, the data like this, and then we can reuse it with the star. So the service name, what we can do, we can just write like service name, right? So we have this variable, and then let's continue configuring our services. So we want sync here, right? So let's just write sync, or maybe do we have sync? No, we don't. Then we can configure these values of the sync, and what I want to change, you want to change the PVC here. So let's just place PVC, and we want to specify the name, and the name, sorry, so not the service name, that was wrong, one. Yeah, but we want this, the PVC name. Okay, so that was slightly different way. So we want to create a different thing called PVC name. Then we just want to use it, this one, right? PVC name. By the way, here we should also reuse the Helm configuration values. What I have, NFC service name. Yeah, and we just, okay, and here we should use the names, the proper namespace. So we should choose release namespace. Let me check if I didn't make mistake in specifying this variable. I just searched over file to find, yeah, so yeah, so we already have it everywhere like this. So yeah, I've just specified it the correct way. Alright, so we have the NFS service name, release namespace, and service cluster local. This is the DNS name of our service. And then we have the PVC name, right? So we go ahead and reuse it here. Values NFS PVC name, and we name it here as well. So we have this as a variable and can reuse it, right? So this is just bring us the ability to modify. If you want to change this variable, we only need to change it in one place. This is the benefit of Helm, right? and we create an actor here called PVC name, so we can reuse it here. And you got the idea. So basically, instead of duplicating open reply storage here and here, we just specifying here and creating anchor that allows us to just refer to this value from multiple places. Yeah, this is how it works. Okay, all right, let's go back to the thing and then access modes. And let's copy all of these. So the access mode should be ReadWriteMany. This is what we're trying to achieve. And then the size 10 gigs. Awesome. All right. Let's then switch to another. So we don't need these PVC anymore. We don't need, because we already have it. So I'll go ahead and delete it. Let's then go to the storage. It has the same configuration. Let's double check it. Right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy and paste the same, but just change the name for storage. So the PVC name, ReadWriteMany, 10 gigs. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, let's also delete this PVC because we don't need it anymore. We have the centralized one with NFS. Then like take a look on these utilities. It should have it as well, right? So yeah, let's make sure that we just specify it right. Okay, so yeah, that wasn't that right. So we need to do it like this, and then set utilities PVC name, boom, boom. Okay, cool. So we have these. Let's delete the PVC from utilities as well. Okay, perfect. And I'll just go ahead and check every of these services for the presence of PVC and any kind of PVC config. So we just make sure that we are not missing it in any other place. So yeah, we don't have PVC here. We don't have the PVC mentioned in the values file. Then let's go here. We don't have PVC here. Do we have PVC mentioned in the values file? No, we don't. We don't have PVC here. We don't have the mention in the values file. That's great. This is DB. It's not database, it's actually the service that's responsible for communicating with database, I guess, because it doesn't have any persistent volumes. Let's check it here. No PVC is here. Neither no mention in here. Front end doesn't have. Okay, no here. No here. So you basically have PVC in just 3 services that needs to reuse it. Nothing here. Nothing here. Then here, ingress engines. No, this one won't have. This one neither. Yeah, just finish this short check to make sure that we are not missing anything. And those sync storage utilities we just updated. Alright, perfect. So I go back to this article here and make sure that we not missing anything. So we create the poll. Now let's inspect poll and see both was attached correctly. No, that the poll will become is in completed state as the debugging doesn't have any long-running applications. Okay, perfect. So let's try to apply this deployment right now. So let's go to the terminal and run the helm file debug production apply and see what will happen. So this is pretty simple setup, but let's hope that it will go smooth from the first attempt, and after that we will be able to make a test of our service to make sure that just in the meanwhile I want to check our configuration. Okay, everything seems to be fine. Let's then wait and see what will happen. So I didn't know how this solution will behave under the bigger scale, so under some loads, whether this NFS service with our ability to scale multiple replicas will handle all this. We have an error. We have an error. Overimply namespace, no kind deployment version, ensure crew to install first. Okay, so they don't like our deployment specification. Let's just make it the same as everywhere. I guess I'm just my blind copy paste might cause some issues. Yes, so we need to use apps v1 instead of beta, whatever they have here, like this. Then for the service, I guess we should be doing the same. Let me check. Yeah, for the service we just need to have the v1. Yep. And the PVC, we just deleted all the PVCs. But I guess v1 should work well. Alright, so let's just retry it again. Yeah, so I didn't check how this will behave on the scale, but really, if your files are not very large, even if they do large, so the NFS might have some latency, but it's not a big deal for our system because our requests are queued, right? So even if the time to store the file in our NFS storage will be higher, there is no issue with that. The system will continue storing this file and putting it into the queue, and then when the load will go away, it will just, process all the stored files. Yeah, this is my theoretical assumption about it, but we will see it in one of the following sessions during load testing. But right now, we'll just focus on it. And really, you can use this approach for every case that require you to have scalability, but also persistent volume. So, for instance, if you are forced to deploy the WordPress in Kubernetes, right? I wish you won't be doing it. I wish you won't be developing WordPress anymore, and we finally go to some modern technologies. But okay, there might be some use case where I need to do it, right? And you don't want to change the WordPress itself. You don't want to basically create the stateless version of WordPress. We have the stateful version of WordPress. You need to deploy it here. And you want it to be auto-scalable, so you don't know, maybe you need to scale multiple pods, maybe you need to one pod, you just need to have it auto-scalable. And it means that WordPress stores the files in the local file system, so you need to mount the persistent volume. But as far as GKE and most of the cloud providers doesn't support the persistent volume with ReadWriteMany mode, you won't be able to scale. But following that approach by creating a separate NFS server with the persistent volume of GKE and then using it as a ReadWriteMany mode to scale out your, let's say, WordPress website with multiple file systems would be great. Actually, yeah, you see we have the Sentry web, and the Sentry works the same way. For some reason, this Sentry web application needs to have the storage mounted, and if you want to scale this web application, you also need to create this NFC storage like that. But for Sentry, we're not doing that because the web application of the Sentry, in our use case, won't face a big traffic. So instead, we just want our data connectors of the Sentry to be scalable, because they might handle bigger traffics, but the web application not. So yeah, we can do it like this. By the way, in the WordPress case, you can also run the different deployments of the WordPress. So the one deployment of the WordPress would be the read-only deployment. For instance, if you just have read-only site like blog, right? So just people can just reading. And you can mount the read-only. You can mount multiple replicas in read-only mode to the file storage. Another deployment which won't replicate, which would be your admin panel, right? You don't need to have it replicated because usually you'll not face big traffic to your admin panel, right? Because a few people using admin panel. So this is like another approach, but still it's a bit tricky to set up this persistent volume to work in read-write one mode with one port and in read-only many mode with other ports. So that might be the issue there, but yeah, we're still waiting. Okay, so right now we can see that sync is trying to deploy. Did it deploy or not? Let's check it. So yeah, it deploys, so it means that the volume has been mounted successfully, so we have no issues with that. Let's wait then until it finishes. Okay, it's still not ready. Okay, so for some reason we have this error stick. Let's then just want to create a separate replica. Okay, got it. It wants to, let's just try. Let's see what's happening there. So yeah, it can't mount the volume. It can mount the volume, it can't actually connect to the volume. Alright, I guess this is because our NFS service hasn't been deployed yet. Alright, so we do everything once, but what we need to do instead, we need to first of all make sure that our NFS service deployed, and yeah, we can see here that we don't have OpenFly any NFS right there. Let's then cancel it. Let's cancel this deployment. So what I would do right now, I will just comment out the volume mounting for these services, right? So let's just, okay, so volumes. I'm just comment out these, and no, basically I can just comment out these, right? And the same for the storage and for the utilities. Just to make this deployment proceed, and then once we made it proceed, we will allow an NFS service to deploy, and then okay, volume mount. Let's go back to this one. We also need to comment this out. And the same for the utilities. Yeah, but this is the cron, so utilities shouldn't be affected. Let's try to then deploy it again. Yeah, the problem is that our deployment wants to run the pod to be attached to the persistent volume of the NFS service, but NFS service hasn't been deployed yet, so we have kind of like a sequence issue here. This is because our pod's getting updated faster than our NFS service. Let's wait for this. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and leave you guys alone for a few minutes or a few basically seconds when it's loading, and I'll get back to you soon, so please stay there. Okay, I'm back here. Sorry for this delay. So we have the same issue right now. So we didn't help, I guess, because we still have the volume specified. Yeah, we have the crash. So I'll go ahead and check these. Yeah, so the container is crashing because it can't put the data into volume. So what we need to do, we need to revert everything back in the revert everything in the containers here in the deployments. So I'll cancel these. Yeah, let's revert those comments here. Also, we need to revert the PVC here. Let's revert it. Let's revert the deployment here as well. Let's revert PVC here as well. Then revert the deployment. Okay, we did have reverted. And then let's revert the PVC here as well. And let's comment out these stuff. Okay, just go ahead and check. Yeah, so let's comment out this stuff and just let the service to deploy NFC only. Alright, so Helm file production, apply, and let's see what will happen. It should deploy the NFC now. Okay. Okay, so looks like it's applying now, and now everything should be fine. So it will recreate the persistent volumes you deleted. Everything seemed to be deploying well. It's working. Alright guys, so I'll go ahead and finish the stream right now, and then I'll share with you the results in a separate video. So whenever I'll find any other issues, if not, then I'll just tell you my further steps. So after this deployment will succeed, I can go ahead and just revert what we just did. So I'll uncomment these, I'll remove the PVCs from here, and start another deploy to just apply the volumes from this NFC service we are deploying right now to those pods. And if it won't succeed, I'll continue troubleshooting and share it in another video. But unfortunately, I have some unexpected circumstances that forced me to finish this stream right now. So in any case, thanks guys for joining. I hope you get some value from it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next streams. In the meanwhile, please subscribe to my channel to be notified for my further